even know this was possible.
I didn't either until I got a phone call a few weeks back from somebody who was a victim of these attacks. Actually, two sisters in Atlanta, Candace and Mari Sawyer.
It's a fascinating story, how you got this story.
Yeah, these sisters are great because 3 years ago I wrote a story on this internet routing flaw in AT&T's network that they found, where they were trying to log into their Facebook accounts on their mobile phones and were landing in other people's password-protected Facebook accounts. And they called up 3 years ago, and I thought, well, this can't possibly be true. I don't know how that could happen. We confirmed it. We wrote a great story, and the sisters called me again a few weeks back and said, hey, you might want to look into this. I think hackers are switching SIM cards on people, and we were victims of it.
So how are they doing this?
It's basically social engineering. It's a ton of work. The hackers will research you in advance. They'll learn that you are an AT&T customer. They'll learn your name and address, kind of basic information that can usually be found online. They'll call and pretend to be like an AT&T customer service rep, which is what happened to these sisters. And they'll say that in exchange for a discount on your next bill, why don't you just complete this customer satisfaction survey? And at the end, they say, just to verify the call, what are the last 4 digits of your social? Once you give that, that gives them enough information to call the wireless company, convince them they're you, and convince them to switch your SIM card into their devices. And between the time that you discover that and the time you shut off that SIM card, they rack up tons of international calls.
How widespread is this?
It's a pretty big problem. AT&T has told us that these are organized groups targeting its network. Again, it's a lot of work, but if you can get 12 or 24 hours of international calls in, those are hundreds of thousands of dollars. South Africa's Vodacom says that hackers there are using it to intercept banking security text messages, so they only need access to your phone for 15 seconds, and they can log into your bank account and drain the account.
So what can wireless carriers do, or I mean, what can users do?
You know, one thing that Vodacom's doing that's really interesting is that they're sending text messages to every user that requests a SIM card. So obviously sometimes you're requesting a SIM change, which is a legitimate service, because you've lost your phone or your SIM card's dead or whatever, so you wouldn't get one. But that's a pretty strong safety mechanism. So if I get a text saying, did you request a SIM card change, I can say absolutely not, just like your bank would do, and you can call them up. AT&T doesn't do that. Vodacom does. Other services do as well.
Now, I understand it's hitting different international markets differently. How so?
Yeah, what we're seeing is we're seeing international calling scams hitting the AT&T network. So we're seeing calls going out to several African nations, South American nations, and likely the people who are making these calls don't know that they're using stolen bandwidth. The capacity is sold into these internet marketplaces, exchanges. So people just buy a prepaid calling service, and their call's connected to Cuba, which is one of the countries, and they don't even know they're riding on stolen bandwidth, stolen capacity. In South Africa against banking fraud. So hackers get all of your banking information, but the one thing they can't get is when your bank sends you a security code via text message to confirm a change to the account or to confirm a large withdrawal. They want access to your phone for that small window of time, and then they're out and they're done. And some of the security researchers I've spoken with say that if you get access to a SIM card, you have a really powerful access into somebody's data. So you can make calls on their behalf, you can steal incoming information, incoming text messages, you can compromise lots of internet accounts that way. So it's a ton of work, but there is some payoff for it, for the efforts.